Hello again and welcome. This time I'm going to talk about an issue that I think is important to everybody. I've been getting letters and calls about pensions because we are all at some point in time where we have to look at what we do when we retire, and are we going to be able to have any sort of decent life, to be able to live at least the kinds of life we used to live before our pensions and before when we were working. So I think that I wanted to bring today to meet with you the Honourable Judy Sgro, who is the critic, the Liberal critic for pensions and seniors. And Judy has been doing a great deal of work focusing on pensions. She's been hearing about it, and she has had a roundtable in Ottawa at which our leader Michael Ignatieff was present, and she brought in all sorts of experts on pensions to discuss what we should do about pensions. And the reason we're so interested is because as Liberals we feel a sort of sense of ownership of pensions, because as you well know, it was under a Liberal government that we started the Canada Pension Plan. It was under a Liberal government that OAS and GIS began. And so we feel a deep sense of responsibility for ensuring that those pensions are going to be there for seniors and for Canadians throughout Canada's lifespan, so that people can be able to clearly live well when they retire. At the same time, we need to talk about private pensions a little bit, and the fact that a lot of people lost their shirts when we just saw the last recession. The recession caused a huge problem. People lost their pensions. Businesses, corporations went under, and people who've been paying into pensions within their jobs for a long time suddenly found that they either had nothing or far less than they ever hoped they had when they'd been putting money into this for a long time. So I'm going to introduce Judy. Judy is again a member of Parliament from Toronto, and I'm going to talk to Judy a little bit about the work that she's been doing. Judy, you had a roundtable on the Hill. Tell us about it.
Thank you very much, Hedy. It's great to have a few minutes for you and I to talk about it. The issue of pensions and seniors, it's an issue that I know you hold dear to your heart. You raise it to me many times in the House. We need to do more for our seniors and so on. So I'm pleased to have a few minutes to spend with you today talking exactly about that issue. Yes. Mr. Ignatieff appointed me just over a year ago on the pension file, well before it started to become such a heated topic around the country. He recognized early on, as many of us did, that it's a serious problem and that Canada was clearly walking into a pension crisis for the future Canadians that would be retiring. So
although Judy, just to cut in here, it was Paul Martin under the Critic government that actually took the Canada Pension Plan and ensured that it would be stable and there for Canadians for the next 75 years. So CPP is stable, but the rest is what we need to talk about.
The CPP, thank goodness that Paul Martin and our party had the foresight to make the significant changes back in 1997 that has put the Canada Pension Plan on a secure footing. Without that, I would suggest that all Canadians would be in pretty significant problems had they not done that. So Paul did that in '97, and the CPP is on sound fiscal plan, not an issue there. The issue is that's not enough for people to retire on. People have this perception that between their contributions to Canada Pension Plan and their old age security, they'll live just fine. Well, that's not enough because there's caps on Canada Pension Plan as well. And most people are going to get is somewhere, if you don't have a private pension plan of your own and your own personal savings, between CPP and the OAS, you're probably going to get somewhere around $1,300 a month. Now, you'd never be able to live in Vancouver on that kind of money.
Absolutely not.
And we have people all across Canada that are having to live on that limited amount of money. So I put together a roundtable in October on a nonpartisan basis and brought in some of the brightest people in Canada to talk about pensions and what we need to do about it in order to ensure that Canadians can retire with the kind of quality of life that we know everybody looks forward to. What changes have to be brought in from a legislation to, one, encourage people to save, but to make it easier for them to deduct what they put away and not be penalized at a later date. And so one is education, encouraging people, and engaging the government in making changes.
The difficulty for Canadian saving, I think, is a point that we have a lot of people in their 30s, young people, 30, 35, 36, 37, 38. They've just started a family. They, at least in Vancouver, they cannot afford to buy a house. They both may have gone to university, or they both have skills and trades, and they're both working. And of course, they find that one of them loses their job. And we know that that puts them about the ability to live for 1 month before they go bankrupt, and before they lose that little home that they may have put money towards. And this is a real concern for them, so they can't save. They're really trying to tread water as it stands. So what can we do about encouraging people to save?
Well, I think we have to make it easier. One of the recommendations that came out as a result of the consultations was to start a supplementary Canada pension plan, which would be a plan that you could contribute $100 a year, $500 a year, or if you work for a small company, your employer could contribute. It would be very portable. And
it would be in addition to the current CPP.
In addition to the CPP.
If you have one. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because that's based specifically on what you're earning.
Yes.
This way you could put a couple of hundred, even if it's a couple of $100 away, you know that it's going to be well managed, not going to have huge management fees on it, and you can trust the Canada pension plan. But one of the problems is that not everybody has a company pension, and the supplementary plan would allow small companies that can't afford to get into all of the rigmarole that happens when you establish a company pension plan. They could contribute on your behalf $1,000 a year, whatever it was, mm-hmm. that they wanted to. And so that way, it's a way of building up a supplementary plan that would beef up what your contributions is. Now that's just one suggestion that we have put forward that we would introduce.
Because you know that 29% of Canadians right now, when they retire, are completely dependent on the CPP, OAS, and GIS, and that's it. They have nothing else.
Exactly.
So that's an idea, I think, but so people would have to contribute to this. Mm-hmm. Themselves or their employer. In small businesses, you're in a mm-hmm. small firm, can do this. What are the other suggestions that you heard of this?
Well, some of them are trying to make changes to the Income Tax Act. That would allow people to not have to take out money out of their RSPs at a particular age, that could be extended.
So it's extended, the Conservative government extended it to 71.
Extended to 71, but you're still, for many people, they don't want to be forced to have to take money out. But again, that's talking about the people that have managed to put some away. When you look at the large portion of people, like the family that you indicated a few minutes ago, mm-hmm. When you only start earning significant dollars in your 30s, and you're trying to pay your rent and the rest of it, you just don't have the extra money. So it's difficult. We know that. And Canadians are living more on debt today than they ever have in the history of our country, yes. and running up high levels of debt.
I think the other thing is that a lot of people are now terrified to put aside money and invest any little bit of money that they may have, because we saw what happened when the markets went mm-hmm. belly up about a year ago, and a lot of people lost much of their money. I guess we're going to take a break soon, but what I wanted for us to talk about when we came back was the fact that a lot of people who are retired today, we're talking about people who are hoping to retire and who are now 35, 40, 50, but there are a lot of people who are retired and who put in their RSPs, or their pensions were invested in stuff, or they had a little bit of money invested, and they now find that 33% of that's gone, mm-hmm. and they're living to be older. What are they going to do? I think that's an issue that we really need to talk about. Mm-hmm. The people who can't go back to work because they're retired. Right. Mm-hmm. What are they going to do? They don't have a chance to make up that money anymore. And I think that is really disconcerting for many people. I mean, many people are very, they may have a little home, or they may have given their mm-hmm. house up and now paying rent and having to make ends meet. And I think that's really difficult. I also wanted us not only to talk about that, but when we come back after the break, I wanted to also talk about women and how women are affected very differently than men with regard to pensionable earnings at the end of their life cycle. And even if they had paid into CPP, mm-hmm. And even if they'd worked all their lives, we know that they're still getting less money when they retire than men. And because women live longer than men, we do have a problem that a lot of them are single. Mm-hmm. when they get to be about 80, and they're therefore wondering how they're going to make ends meet. And at the end of the day, that impacts, as you know, on their health, on nutrition, on their ability to just live any kind of quality of life that they can enjoy their retirement years in some simple way. And isn't that what pensions are meant to be? To give people the ability to at least try to find some way of, if not mimicking the exact standard of living they had when they were in the paid workforce, but at least having some kind of comfortable way to spend their last days in some kind of reasonable quality of life. So we can come back and talk about that, Judy, when we get back.